Dragon's Lair, Stage 25. Can it be done full auto and free to play? Yes. What is going on, Raiders? Soda Dragon here, and today I'm giving you a free-to-play team composed of login champs only that can beat the Dragon's Lair Stage 25 on full auto. The good thing about this comp is there is no shard pulling or luck involved. All you need to do is log in, get your champs, build them up, gear them right, and you can do the same thing. But before we get started, I wanted to let you guys in on a really awesome deal that's going on right now. So my wife has written 2 books. Now these are full-size books, so not like dinky little pamphlets, but they are young adult fantasy fiction in the style of Harry Potter. They are Jane and the Sea and Jane and the Leviathan. Really good books, and right now they are free. 100% free. So this is until August 10th. So please, if you like young adult fantasy fiction, or you know people that do, or you have kids, point them in this direction. I will leave links in the description below. Free. That is the best deal, right? So definitely grab these while you can. Alright guys, on to our team for today, our login champ only team that can full auto Dragon 25. So here we have Scylla the Drake. She is healing everybody at the start of her turn for 10% of their max health. Really good. She also revives. Sometimes Kale will need to be revived. And she has that AoE stun. So super good for the waves. We have High Katoon giving us that turn meter boost. Plus she gives us that speed up buff. Now Scylla the Drake does that as well, but to a random ally. So it's nice to have High Katoon in there just to give it to the whole team. And she has a turn meter decrease AoE for the opposing team, so really good. So we have Kale in the lead spot. I actually think Kale in the lead spot is better than High Katoon. So instead of that speed aura, you're getting that ally HP in all battles aura. So I actually think that's a little bit better, especially for Kale. If anybody dies on this comp, it's going to be Kale. So we have Kale coming in with his poisons on his A1 and his A3. That A3 has a strong version poisons, really good. Plus he has a nice AoE on his A2. So really good for the waves, but those poisons are super useful for the boss. Now can you do it without poisons? With just maybe the Hail Burn from Ninja? Yeah, you can, but I definitely think it's better to have a poisoner on the team. It's going to make the run go a lot faster. So we have Grush. He's great for heals. So not only can you put a leech up on the boss or whoever, but he has an AoE decreased attack or decreased crit damage. So that decreased crit damage did get buffed, which is good. Plus he has those continuous heals. So he's great for keeping the team alive. And we have Ninja. He is just awesome. Awesome that he's given free. It's just insane. He's a great champ. I really like him in a lot of dungeon content. And the way I see him and the way I use him and the way I like to build him is for his debuffs. I don't build him for attack. I don't build him for doing damage, so to speak. So his attack number is very low, but I'm using him for all his debuffs because all his attacks have debuffs. All of them. Okay, so I see him as a debuffer. So what does he bring? He has a nice AoE freeze, really good. He has a triple hit on his A2 that gives 3 stacks of HP burns. And it is random who those attacks hit. So unfortunately, sometimes they can all hit the same person. And that person is left with 1 stack of HP burn for 3 turns. Normal enemies. So that's unfortunate, but against bosses it's fine because he's going to detonate each hit of that triple hit. So the triple hit with 3 stacks each of HP burn, he's going to detonate all of them except for the very last one. So he is doing a lot of damage. In the waves, HP burn is great for waves. It's a little slow, but still very good way to get through hard waves in this game, whether or not we're talking about dungeons or Doom Tower. And once he gets to the boss, he instantly detonates those HP burns. So really good choice. Plus his A1 has that defense down strong version. So he is a great addition to this comp. As I said, completely free to play, login champ only, no luck, no shard pulling required. So some of you guys might have noticed that there are 3 Magic Affinity characters on our team, and the Dragon at stage 25 is Force. So on paper, this is a bad matchup, right? Because the majority of our team has that affinity disadvantage versus the boss, and we are fighting the highest level boss. Dragon 25 is the highest. So all I can say to that is it works. Not all things that are bad on paper are as bad in reality. This team works. I've never seen it fail, okay? With the builds I'm going to show you. And I don't have crazy gear in them, trust me. And you'll see that in a second. So since we're working with really the worst affinity matchup that we can have, that means the majority of our team has that affinity disadvantage, and we're working at the highest difficulty, and this team can do it no problem, then of course this team will work for all lower difficulties as well. So we'll go through those gear, stats, and masteries of all the characters, and then we're going to take this team for a run full auto Dragon 25. Alright guys, let's start off with Kale. So what does he bring to the table? Firstly, we are using him in the lead spot, so his aura is ally HP in all battles, plus 15%. So once again, really good, especially for Kale himself. Everyone else is pretty tanky except for Kale. Even Ninja is tankier than Kale. So once we're talking Dragon 25, man, those waves hit hard. So getting that little bit of extra HP helps. Here is A3, so he attacks 4 times at random. Booked, each hit has a 50% chance to place 2 strong version poisons. So this A3 is really what we need him for when it comes to the dragon. So we need him to poison that dragon because poison does so much damage against a lot of bosses in this game, but in particular the dragon. So definitely we want him for his poisoning abilities. Now of course Kale can be replaced if you have Frozen Banshee or really any good poisoner. But if you got Kale, he's good enough. As you'll see, even with the affinity disadvantage, he is good enough. Kale also has a nice AoE on his A2. Now, if he does kill people, he gets extra turn meter, but chances are he's not going to be one-shotting waves. I mean, these are Dragon 25 waves, but it is nice to get that extra damage from an AoE attack. And also his A1 puts up a weak version poison. So not only can he put up those strong version poisons on his A3, but he has a weak version poison, 2.5 on his A1. Still not as good as the strong version, but still better than nothing. On to the gear. So here I have Kale in a lifesteal set and a perception set. So lifesteal heals by 30% of damage dealt, and perception plus 40 accuracy and plus speed 5%. So that accuracy is required for Kale to land his debuffs, those poisons, remember his A3 and his A1, and we do need that lifesteal to keep him alive. So in conjunction with a talent, mastery that we'll talk about in a second, War Master, this works really well for keeping Kale alive and regenerating his health. So I definitely recommend for Kale a lifesteal set. Now if you already have the accuracy required, I'd say 250 or above would be good for Dragon 25. Then it's fine to add an additional speed set or something along those lines. But if you don't have enough accuracy, then a perception set or an accuracy set would be a good choice. On to Kale's total stats. So here I have him at 39,000 health. I have the attack at 2,500, defense 1,600, speed 166. Now this might seem slow, but as you'll see, this is good enough for Dragon 25. It works. So crit rate 89% and crit damage 143%. So he does decent damage. Debuff resistance 140 and debuff accuracy 355. So way above what's required for Dragon 25. I'd say you need maybe 250 or above for Dragon 25, but don't overdo it. I was using Kale for other purposes. That's why I have his accuracy so high, but you definitely don't need this much. On to his masteries, I'm just going to highlight a few. So here we have Life Drinker, so when Kale is under 50% health, he will start to heal by 5% of the damage dealt. Now this might not seem like a lot, but when you combine it with War Master here, this is bonus damage based off enemy max HP. So the more HP an enemy has, the more damage this will do. Now you start to see the benefit of Life Drinker. Okay, so without an enemy with a huge HP pool and without War Master, yes, Life Drinker doesn't do much. But when you combine that, so War Master, Life Drinker, and the lifesteal set, you get a ton of healing back. So that's really good for a semi-squishy character like Kale. So here we have Sniper, so this increases the chances of landing debuffs by 5%, and there are certain exceptions on the bottom. What are we using this for? We're using it for his A3 because those strong version poisons do not have a 100% chance to land. His A1, that weak poison, does when booked have a 100% chance to land, so this wouldn't be necessary. But we're really getting Sniper for that A3, those strong version poisons, so definitely a good choice for Kale. And here we have Master Hexer, so we increase the chances of those strong version poisons on his A3 and also his A1 as well. We are potentially extending them. So on his A3, he has a chance to land 2 turn poisons. So with this Master Hexer, we can make them 3 turn poison, which is really good. Now it doesn't happen all the time, it's only a 30% chance, but still it makes a big difference. So Master Hexer is really good for debuffers and poisoners. Alright guys, on to Syl of the Drakes. So what does she bring to the team? So here, her passive Boundless Life, she is healing everybody on the team for 10% of their max health at the start of her turn. So what's really nice is this occurs even if she's stunned, slept, feared, as long as she's alive and her turn is up, then she will heal everyone for 10% of the max HP, which is really good. Plus she puts a random speed buff on somebody, which you'll probably just forget about that part of this passive, but definitely the healing is big. She also is a reviver, so she's going to need to revive whoever dies, and it's probably going to be Kale. And she revives with ally protection too, which is really nice. So she is also a crowd control champ, which is awesome. So here she has an AoE, it's a double hitter AoE, and each hit when booked has a 35% chance to stun. So it's not a 100% chance, but still, she is a crowd control specialist, and this, when booked on a 3-turn cooldown, absolutely awesome. And her A1, she does do a speed decrease, and also she has a turn meter decrease on her A1. So her whole kit, whether we're talking about bosses or waves, whatever, really, you can bring her into any part of any team for any part of this game. On to Syl's gear. So here I have her in a Relentless set and an Immortal set. So that Relentless set plus 18% chance to get an extra turn, and Immortal set plus 15% HP and heals by 3% for every turn. So not only is she healing herself and everybody else for 10% of their max health every turn, but now she's getting bonus healing from that Immortal set plus 15% total health. So really good for her. And that Relentless set is awesome because she can proc extra turns, and when she does, when that extra turn does occur, not only is she healing herself, but she's healing everybody on the team for 10% of their max health. So if she gets 2 turns in a row, all of a sudden everybody on the team has 20% of their max health. Same thing, 3 turns in a row, 4 turns in a row, and she will sometimes take 4 turns, 5 turns, 6 turns in a row. Now, of course, you know, she's not taking 6 turns in a row that often, but it will happen. It will happen, and all of a sudden everybody on the team has 60% of their health back. So really good set for Syl. I find the Relentless set is so good for support champs in this game. Now damage champions, it depends on who, all right, but definitely for support champions, oh my goodness, I love Relentless on them. Okay, so that is really what I look for when I look at a support champion. Would they work with Relentless? And she definitely does. This is one of the best sets on her, period. On to Syl's total stats. So here I have her at 64,000 health. The attack is not relevant for Syl. Defense 3,700, so her damage is based on defense. So a good amount of defense, though we're not using her for her damage. Speed 195, not too bad. Crit rate 29%, crit damage 143%. Not high numbers, but we're not using Syl as a damage dealer. Debuff resistance 115 and debuff accuracy 261. So definitely 261, good enough for Dragon 25. On to the Masteries, I'm just going to highlight a few. So here we do see that Life Drinker War Master combo, right? So we're seeing the same thing here. War Master is a really good mastery, not only in conjunction with things like Life Drinker and Lifesteal sets to keep people alive, but War Master just does a lot of damage to bosses. So if you're using characters for dungeon content and you can fit it in, definitely get War Master for your characters. They're going to do a lot more damage to those high HP bosses. Now here you can opt for Giant Slayer if your character has an A1 attack that is a multi-hit, and you can do the math yourself to see which one is better, but I typically run War Master, period. So even on someone like my Drex, whereas A1 is a triple hitter, I will still run War Master, because to get to Giant Slayer, you have to run down the offense tree differently. And typically I don't like to do that, and I've also seen no damage benefit to Giant Slayer over War Master. But once again, if you're using your characters for PvE content and bosses, then definitely take War Master. So War Master is not really great for PvP content. So we're talking about arena, something like that. You're not really going to want War Master. You're going to want something like Helm Smasher. Okay. But on the flip side, when we're talking about dungeon bosses, Helm Smasher is not as good as War Master here. So definitely try to get War Master if we're talking about PvE. Really good. And as I mentioned, in conjunction with Life Drinker and a Lifesteal set, really good as well. But Syl is just so tanky, and she has that passive heal that she doesn't need a Lifesteal set. Another great one for Syl is Spirit Haste here. So when someone dies, she gets a speed bonus, plus 8 for each dead ally, up to 24. So really good. When someone dies, she gets a speed boost. So hopefully she can cut in and either revive the person or throw out that AoE stun, whatever. So really good for her. And here I do have Sniper on her. This is primarily for her A1, that decreased speed. Not super required for her for Dragon 25, but in general, a good mastery for her. Alright guys, on to Grush. So what does he do for the team? So here, his A3 is an AoE attack, plus it puts up 2-turn continuous heals on the whole team, strong version. And in addition to that, if he crits anybody with that AoE, he's going to put up a 1-turn weak version continuous heal on the team. Now, is it worth it to build your Grush with crit rate so he can get that weak version continuous heal? I think it is. If he's staying alive. If you're building him tanky enough and he can stay alive, then definitely put that crit rate glove on him to get your crit rate up and get that extra continuous heal. If your Grush is dying, then you're going to have to switch out that crit rate glove for maybe an HP percentage or defense percentage glove. So it depends, but I definitely do think it is worth it to build your Grush with crit rate if you can afford to do so for his A3 to get that extra continuous heal. Grush's A2 is really good as well. It is an AoE attack, and it either puts strong version attack down or strong version crit damage down for 2 turns on the enemy. Just notice the language here, it is either or. You are not going to get both with one application of this move, either or. And Grush's A1 is good as well because you are getting a single target leech. Onto his gear. So here I have him in a lifesteal set and a perception set. So we're getting that healing from the damage he's doing from that lifesteal set, and we're getting that increased accuracy from that perception set, plus a little bit of speed. So because Grush has all those debuffs, you're going to need to build him with accuracy. On to Grush's total stats. So here I have him at 58,000 health. Attack is not relevant because his damage is based on defense. Defense here 3,000. Speed 195. Crit rate 57%, so over 50%. Crit damage 135%. Debuff resistance 154 and debuff accuracy at 315. On to the masteries. So here I do have that Life Drinker and War Master combo that you saw. And remember with Kale as well, Life Drinker plus War Master plus Lifesteal set is a really good combo. So definitely if you want your champs to last a long time, you want them to be tanky and not die, that is your combo. Okay, Life Drinker, Lifesteal set plus War Master. Here I have Lasting Gifts, and this is primarily for all those continuous heals with Grush's A3. So we are potentially extending them all for 1 turn more. It's only a 30% chance, but still, this comes in clutch, really good. And here Master Hexer, potentially extending debuffs for 1 turn, really good for Grush's A2 and his A1, that leech. So we have that attack down, crit damage down, or that leech. So we can extend them potentially from 2 turns to 3 turns with this mastery. Alright guys, on to High Katoon. So how does she help out the team? So firstly, she has a nice 19% speed aura in all battles, all allies. So really good if your team is tanky enough. If not, then go ahead and use Kale with his HP aura. The A3 Shamanic Lightning, we have an AoE decreased turn meter, so super helpful. The A2 is really where High Katoon shines. She increases everybody's turn meter on the team, plus she puts up that strong version speed increase buff. So really useful, and this is primarily why you are using her, to go faster, to get more turns with this A2. And the A1 does have a decreased speed on it, so it can be useful. It won't be useful against this boss, but definitely a good useful A1 for many of the bosses in this game with that decreased speed debuff. On to her gear. So here we have her fast with 3 speed sets, so plus 12% speed for each set. On to her total stats. So here I have her at 54,000 health. Attack is 2,000. Defense 2,500. Speed 248, so the fastest person on the team. Crit rate 44%, crit damage 113%. Debuff resistance 100 and debuff accuracy at 160. Now this is pretty low for Dragon 25, but we're not really leaning on her for her AoE decreased turn meter. So everybody else should be able to take up the slack with regard to crowd control. So we have Scylla the Drakes with that AoE stun, plus we have Ninja coming in with that AoE freeze. So that should be good enough. We shouldn't really have to rely on High Katoon for that AoE decreased turn meter. So because of that, we really don't need to build it with high accuracy. On to her masteries. So here we do see that Life Drinker War Master combo. that we saw in so many other characters. Remember, War Master is a really good PvE mastery, especially against bosses, because the higher health they have, the higher this hits when it procs. So here we do have lasting gifts to potentially extend that strong version speed up buff on our A2 from 2 turns to 3 turns. So this is what lasting gifts gives us. Hopefully we can extend that speed up and take more turns. Master Hexer here, this is primarily for her A1 that decreased speed debuff, but this really isn't necessary for this particular run. But in general, yes, this is a good mastery for her A1. Alright guys, on to Ninja. So what does he bring to the table? He has a nice passive here, Escalation, that increases his damage if he hits any single target with all 3 of his skills. Now since we're not using him primarily as a damage dealer, we're not too concerned about this, but in any case, this is nice to have if you plan to use Ninja as a damage dealer. Ninja has a really nice AoE freeze on his A3 Cyan Slash here. So unbooked, this is on a 5-turn cooldown and it only has a 75% chance to freeze. But booked, it is a 100% chance to freeze on a 4-turn cooldown. So definitely really good skill for getting through those waves. Ninja's A2 is a triple hitter that applies 3-turn HP burns. Really nice. Now those triple hits are at random, but if you use this against the boss, Ninja will instantly explode those HP burn stacks. Awesome. And he puts perfect veil on himself, so he cannot be targeted. So really good A2. And Ninja is also bringing a strong version single target decreased defense on his A1. On to Ninja's gear. So here I have him in a Relentless set and a Perception set. So Relentless set, 18% chance to get an extra turn, and Perception plus 40 accuracy plus speed 5%. So that Relentless set is really good, in particular for that long cooldown A3, that AoE freeze. So once you get an extra turn, man, all those cooldowns are reduced. Right? So 1 extra turn, that's all of a sudden a 3-turn cooldown for that A3 AoE freeze. You get 2 extra turns, all of a sudden that is a 2-turn cooldown for that move, and on and so forth. So you see how important getting extra turns are, especially for support type champs, debuffers, people like that. And I consider Ninja a debuffer. All right, so Perception, because we need the accuracy to land all those debuffs. None of Ninja's debuffs are irresistible, so definitely we need to build them with accuracy. On to Ninja's total stats. So here I have him at 49,000 health. I have the attack at 2600, defense at 2000, speed 212, so it's pretty fast, crit rate 29%, and crit damage 134%. Remember, we're not using Ninja for his damage, we're using him for things like HP burn, AoE freeze, defense down, stuff like that. So debuff resistance 99 and debuff accuracy a healthy 333. On to Ninja's Masteries. So here I do once again have that Life Drinker War Master combo. So really good, works really well, as I mentioned, in PvE content and for keeping your champs alive. Now, Ninja does not have a lifesteal set, but this still helps out a lot. So for the support tree, I do have lasting gifts. This is primarily for that perfect veil that Ninja puts on himself with that A2. So Ninja is not that tanky, he's kind of squishy, so definitely the more that people cannot target him, the longer that people cannot target him, the better. So instead of a 2-turn perfect veil, potentially with this we have a 3-turn perfect veil, which is really useful for him. And we have Master Hexer. This is primarily for his HP burn and his defense down. So Master Hexer will not work for things like freeze. Now we don't need it to work with freeze anyway, because when booked he has a 100% chance to freeze. But even if you did not book him out fully, Master Hexer would not work with freeze, as you can see on the bottom. But instead of having those 3-turn stacks of HP burn, now we can have 4-turn stacks of HP burn. That's just crazy. Plus that defense down on his A1, we can extend that to 3 turns instead of 2 turns. So Master Hexer, really good for Ninja. Alright guys, on to our Dragon 25 run. Remember, we are really looking at one of the worst case scenarios possible. The majority of our team is at an affinity disadvantage, and we're fighting the highest level boss. And those team members at an affinity disadvantage are the ones that we need to apply those debuffs to the boss. Remember, if we weak hit, we don't apply those debuffs. Even with all these disadvantages stacked against us, this team just works. It works so easy. It is completely full auto. In fact, there are no skill instructions to input. There's nothing. You just set it and forget it. It is done. There's nothing for you to do. So this is our run. There you go, Dragon 25 full auto with login champs only. So given enough time, you guys should have all of these champs. And if you do, then you can do Dragon 25 full auto. All right, guys, that is it for today. I hope this has been helpful to you, especially some of you free-to-play players out there who have been looking for Dragon's Lair comps. So chances are you have these guys, or you're going to get these guys, and now you know you can do it. Even with all the affinity disadvantages, you can still do it. All right, so if you haven't yet, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.